Redline Logbook here to continue on my Familias of the Danmachi universe with the Hestia familia. The Hestia familia, of course, starts off with Hestia, all the way up in heaven. In heaven, Hestia was part of the Olympian gods of heaven. Hestia is, even though she's lazy, is one of the most respected goddesses throughout all of Olympia. Zeus, Uranus, all the great gods of Olympus respected her as their equal. As such, she was selected as one of the 12 leaders of Olympus. And she actually was going to be one of the 12 Olympians who ruled over all of the region of heaven. That is, until Dionysus threw a shit fit over the fact that he wasn't selected. Hestia said that Dionysus suffered from what she called a sickness in heaven, which is a thing where gods, because of the boredom of existence for eternity, in absolute luxury and perfection, you get violent and aggressive, and you basically just want to kill things. Loki had this problem back in heaven, and Dionysus as well. And as a result, Hestia, wanting to keep the peace, and also the fact that she just didn't want the job, relinquished her seat to Dionysus. As a result of this, a war was basically stopped in heaven by Hestia, and she went off to her own temple where she did nothing but, eat, sleep, and read her books. She literally did not care. Very lazy person. And for millions of years, that's literally all she did, was just live in her temple. She also would hang out with Hephaestus sometimes, but for the most part, she literally did nothing. Eventually, she got bored of all this and decided to head down to the mortal world, where her first and only stop was Aurorio. Her best friend, Hephaestus, was already a goddess in the mortal realm, with already a pretty sizable familia, so she decided to check her out first, and for 3 straight months mooched off of her. Instead of starting her own familia or doing anything, Hestia basically did what she did in heaven. She lied around in her room, ate food, and read some books. Eventually, Hephaestus got sick of this after 3 months, threw her out, and basically told her to go start her own familia and to not return. This did not go well, because Hestia did not understand the mortal realm. When she walked up to a random elf adventurer who was brand new to Aurorio, she asked her to join her familia. The female elf then asked, Who are you? What's your familia like? Yada yada yada. And when Hestia basically said she's just a new goddess with no money or experience or anything, the elf looked at her in disgust and then walked away. And basically, Hestia spent the entire day being rejected by literally everyone. She then ran back to Hephaestus, begging for help, and Hephaestus, putting mercy on her, gave her the church that she would later live in, and also asked a friend of hers to give Hestia a job. That's where she started working at the potato stand. And so Hestia, for the next 9 months, spent working her days at the potato stand and looking for adventurers and getting rejected for her familia. Now, a lot of this makes Hestia sound kind of bad. Those are her bad qualities, but in fact, she has tons of wonderful qualities for the simple fact that she is probably one of the wisest goddesses that exist. That's why she is actually respected by people like Zeus and all the other great gods. Hestia, the reason why she was able to determine that if she just gave up her seat to Dionysus, it would end a civil war, because she understood his feelings and who he was, and she was able to judge that he was a scary, dangerous person, and this was for the best for everyone. She's very good at looking into the hearts of people and determining if they're good or bad just by interacting with them once. She's also probably one of the purest, kindest people out there. This isn't just because she's a virgin goddess. This is the simple fact that she just generally is a loving, warm person. As the goddess of the hearth is the thing that warms your home. It is what cooks your food. It is the fire that keeps humanity alive. As such, Hestia is, in a way, the protector and the mother of all humanity. And so she just doesn't judge people based on meaningless things. Hephaestus is a perfect example of this. Hephaestus' eye is always covered, and whatever is beneath it is so horrific that it causes people to shudder in fear and disgust. When Hestia saw it for the first time, she had no reaction, because to her it was just Hephaestus. And so this is why Hestia was the perfect goddess to find Belle. Belle is an interesting one, because he was born from 2 of the weakest members of 2 of the strongest familias. And it's not like the weakest members were also super powerful. No, his father was beaten up by wild animals, not even monsters, but animals. And his mother could barely leave her bedroom most of the time because she was so sick. As a result of this, Belle's father died of a monster before he was born, and his mother died shortly after his birth. In fact, his adopted grandfather, Zeus, even referred to Belle as having no potential, because he was born from 2 people who had 0 potential. But this didn't matter because Zeus loved and cherished Belle because he was the last of his familia, and he happily raised him in his parents' stead. Zeus taught Belle two major things. Heroes are cool, and ladies are wonderful. Because Zeus loved humanity, even back in heaven, he used to watch over them constantly, and so he knew all of the stories of heroes of the past, down to details that no one else knew, and so he was able to create picture books for Belle that were perfectly accurate, better than any actual written history of the time that were passed down for generations. He also kind of brainwashed Belle into believing that having a harem is a man's romance, and the ultimate goal of a man is to basically have as many women as possible. But Belle grew up a pure and kind person who was loved and cherished by his grandfather and by his community that he lived in. And because of this, Belle was never really corrupted by the world around him. As a result, Belle is actually a very kind-hearted, sincere man who wants to do what is right, no matter the risk, and wants to save everyone. Now, because Hera was on Zeus's trail at the time, when Belle was 13, Zeus faked his death, making Belle believe that he lost the only family he had left. Belle, after mourning his grandfather for a year, decided to go off to Aurorio to be a hero that he was told about by his grandfather in those stories. Belle spent his first month in Aurorio being rejected by every single familia he applied for. The main reason for this is because, one, he's a human, which is already one of the weakest races in both physical strength and magic, but also because he had no formal training as a knight or anything in some foreign country. He was just a farm boy. The only gods that seemed to want him were the creepy ones who wanted him for his body, which is, obviously Belle ran from those. After just a week of Aurorio, he was scammed out of all of his money, and he was basically at a point of complete desperation, fear, and loneliness. And that is when Hestia finally approached him and asked if he wanted to join her familia. This is the reason why Belle is so dedicated and loyal to Hestia, because the fact is, she saved him, not just from dying of starvation on the street, but from his loneliness. Belle had a family again, and so Belle decided to repay Hestia by going into the dungeon and doing everything he can to support the familia. Also, pick up women. After just 2 weeks as an adventurer, Belle gets unlucky and is attacked by a minotaur that was scared up from the Loki familia in the middle floors. He was chased all around the 5th floor until he was eventually saved by Eyes, who inadvertently got the minotaur's blood all over Belle. Now, the whole point of Belle going into the dungeon was to find a woman in trouble being attacked by a monster, him saving her, and then she falling in love with him. That's what his grandfather taught him would happen. But this incident with Eyes, her saving him, the complete opposite happened where Belle fell in love with Eyes. This also broke his brainwashing, where he now no longer had a desire to build himself a harem. His entire desires and focus were completely and utterly on Eyes. In fact, his love was so strong that he developed a new skill that had never been formed in the last 1,000 years of the gods, and that is Laris Freeze. This ability allows Belle to level up faster, based solely on his desire for Eyes, and the stronger the desire, the faster his growth will be. Because of this skill, Belle basically is able to break every rule there is when it comes to leveling up, because it doesn't just allow him to level up faster, it also allows him to break the limiter on leveling up. His skills don't just hit a maximum of S999 like everyone else. He's able to go above that to double or even triple S. It also makes him completely immune to charm or any other ability in that sense that would control his mind, because his love for Eyes is unwavering. Now, that was Incident 1 that changed Belle. Incident 2 that changed Belle was being humiliated. Now, Belle's original plan was to meet Eyes, thank her for saving his life, and basically confessing to her. While Belle was in Mamma Mia's eating a meal, the Loki familia entered in because they're regulars. The elites of the guild sat in their own table, and everyone in the bar could hear them talking. While Belle was about to walk up to Eyes and say what he was going to say, a member of the Loki familia called Bette started to bring up the moment with the Minotaur and how blood got splattered all over Belle's face, and he started laughing and joking about how he looked like a tomato, and the entire familia started laughing about it. And basically, it was an incident that just humiliated Belle. While Eyes was telling Bette to shut his mouth because she saw no reason to talk about someone like that, the thing that really hurt Belle was when Bette brought up to Eyes is that the kind of man that you would be in a relationship with? And Eyes wasn't able to say yes or no to the question, because the fact is Eyes would not be with someone who's weaker than her. She can't be, but that's an entirely different topic to talk about later. The point is, Belle realized at that moment that he wasn't worthy of Eyes, and him walking up and confessing to her was stupid. And so at that moment, in his humiliation, he ran out of the bar, and he went straight to the dungeon and just kept killing monster after monster, trying to get past the frustration and humiliation. Didn't really work. He ended up coming back to Hestia in the morning, completely covered in blood, telling Hestia that he wants to get stronger. And this creates his first goal, which is to become as strong as I, so he can stand next to her as an equal. Now, because of this skill, Belle was leveling up very quickly, and he was going deeper into dungeon, becoming more and more unsafe. Hestia, first off, was jealous of the fact that he's getting stronger for Eyes when Hestia loves Belle. But Hestia is also mature enough not to hinder the boy's growth. As such, she, one, kept the secret of this skill from Belle because she knew he cannot lie, and two, she groveled for 3 days in front of Hephaestus, her best friend, and even agreed to an insane sum of debt so Belle would have a custom knife that he would be able to use to protect himself in the dungeon. This knife is extremely important to show how much Hestia loves Belle, the Hestia knife, because this knife also receives a blessing from Hestia. Through her blood, it now has the ability to grow alongside its user. So as long as the user is weak, the knife will stay weak. But if the user is strong, the knife will increase its power in that wielder's hand to be equal with the user. As a result of this, it is a unique, one-of-a-kind knife that Hephaestus even said it went against her blacksmithing to even make. Which is why there's a caveat on the knife, which is that only a member of the Hestia familia can use it. Otherwise, it's just a dull blade that can't cut anything. Hestia was able to present the knife to Belle during Monsterphilia. During Monsterphilia, the goddess Freya already had discovered Belle, but because he was in another familia, she just wanted to test him a bit, see how he worked out, because she was already obsessed with him. As such, Freya decided to charm a bunch of monsters and send them on a rampage throughout Aurorio City, and she specifically picked the strongest one, a silverback, to go after Hestia. Now, originally, Belle had no chance of beating the monster, and he actually resigned himself to die. He locked Hestia away behind a wall, and then his plan was to then face the silverback by himself, most likely dying in the process. But for Belle, dying was superior than letting Hestia die, and him losing another family member and being alone again. Now, Hestia refused to let Belle die, found a way around the wall, got back to Belle instead of escaping, and was able to present him the knife. With the Hestia knife, Belle was then able to kill the silverback. And so this is where both Belle and Hestia are able to move forward, becoming stronger together, and starting the familia. Alright, if you enjoyed this video, please subscribe, give it a thumbs up so you can enjoy more Danmachi and other anime things. Thank you, and have a great day.